I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight.
Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. We have a special guest. It's actually my friend Colin. Hi, Colin.
Hello, hi.
How are you?
Doing well, trying to keep blessed and occupied and safe during this pandemic.
Yes, you are one of the lucky ones. You're not in Ontario with us during this pandemic. So, how is it in Halifax?
It's been good. I mean, the numbers have been going up and down, but nothing too serious. They have a few restrictions that they close restaurants, bars and gyms and so forth, but nothing too serious, like in
So,
Ontario.
where can you actually go right now?
Not much.
Mm.
Nowhere, not much. My daughter's hockey has stopped. They've stopped everything until December 16th.
Wow. I guess we're gonna get used to this, right? I mean, it seems like not until maybe January, February, once the vaccine starts rolling out. I don't know how I feel about the vaccine, but that's a different conversation altogether. What we're going to
Indeed.
talk about today is traveling, right? We haven't been able to travel this year.
I know it's the pandemic has just ruined air travel for many people. Even just traveling by car, bus, train, any type of travel. I had a great trip planned before the pandemic hit in April, and we were supposed to go. Me and my wife, or wife and I, were supposed to go Hawaii, El Salvador, Honduras, right? And now it was supposed to be like a great trip, and then couldn't do it.
Yeah, I think everyone who's listening can relate. My roommate planned to go to London. She also planned to go to Cuba this year. So many flights were canceled. Some people are still stranded, actually. I have a friend, he's still in Vietnam as we speak. So maybe he'll come back next year. Who knows?
Well, I mean, some countries have different mentalities, right? I mean, in Canada, it's really hard to travel, especially outside this bubble. They called it the Atlantic bubble. So, they preferred you not to travel at all. And if you did, you had to quarantine for 14 days when you came back. So that's a lot for people, right? 14 days when you get there and then 14 days when you get back. But, I know a few people in the United States, some family members who's been traveling within the United States, going here, there, and everywhere. And, you know, I wouldn't be doing it personally because of the high numbers, but, some people feel that they need to.
Yeah, I know someone that I play volleyball with, and he went to BC for a few weeks, and he also went to, did he go to Halifax? I think he went to Halifax as well. I'm not sure, but if we fly within Canada, this was over the summer that he did this. I think it was August, July and August, where it probably wasn't as intense as it is now. I mean, it's a little bit different when we're looking at the numbers on average in Ontario, 1,500 cases a day, right? So, yeah, that changes everything, obviously. But I think that this show, like, we're going to be talking about travel in a way so that we could think about the future and plan for, I don't know if it's next year or 2022.
I'll be positive. 2021.
2021, yes.
But let's be
Okay.
positive because
Okay. Positive thinking. Yes. Positive reinforcement. That's what's going to get us through this hurdle.
I won't be surprised. Traveling does things for people psychologically, mentally. Travel gives people that physical, social levels, just that kickstart to your life. It removes the mundane and you do something different. And that's why I guess why people like traveling. Because you usually do things that you won't usually do when you travel. you're a little bit more brave to try out something new. You want to try a new activity that you might not be able to do at home. So that's why I think a lot of people and frequent flyers like me, I try to travel at least 4 or 5 times a year, if not more, even if it's, back home to Toronto. I do it, right? But I also like to travel internationally because I know what it does for me, right? When I get back to the trip, it's not like, oh, I'm so tired, and so I'm like, wow, that was invigorating for me, right? Um, and I just have a lot of good thoughts when I travel and when I come back.
Yeah, it's a good break from life, from everything. It's hard not to be able to do that. But I mean, I guess we could do staycations or do things in place of going somewhere exotic, somewhere nice. But before we get into the travel side of things, I do want to let people know about who you are, how we know each other. I mean, we do have a history together. And just to let those who are listening know, I know Colin because we both went to York University together. We weren't studying at the same time, but it's funny how we've met at the library out of all places, right? And here we are. It's been, how long has it been? 15 years since I've known you?
2004 or 2003?
No, it was 2005. I remember because I was in summer school in the summertime. And then, yes, it could be between 2004, 2005, but I believe it was 2005. Like when I did summer school, I had to take my natural science over because I didn't do so well in first year. So, yeah, I met you in my second year at York.
Yeah, we met during the second year at the library, like you said. And I mean, it wasn't instant friends, but we just kept on being friends. And, now it's grown and matured to a great and lovely friendship. And, love having you as a friend. I can talk to you, you can listen. You like the things that I like. You're a little bit more about movies than I am, right? You love movies. But yeah, that's how we know each other, and we've also traveled together.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
To Bermuda.
Yes, that was fun, definitely. But you know what? I think everyone has their passion, right? I love movies and you love traveling. I love traveling too, but I think I haven't had I haven't taken more opportunity. If I had to do it over again, I probably would have traveled a little bit more when I was at York. I think I had more off time to do so during that time. And, when I graduated 2008, it was a recession. So that was a hard time too. But I think, like you said, travel does things for your mental health. It takes you away from the everyday. And there's different things about traveling, right? Like we get to do things, like you said, try new things, which are important.
Well, you also get, yeah, and I think you also get to see, when I first started traveling and, where I got the travel bugs, when I was in university and I traveled with my dad to New York and I just loved it on the bus. And I met my cousin there, I think for the first time in a long time. She said, yeah, you should come again. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to go down and travel, take the bus down to New York, have a good time. And that's what I did. And I had a great time. And then I started going to New York more often with other friends. And, and then I was like, well, I have a friend in London. Let me go there. I have a friend here. Let me go there. And that's how it turned out, And now I just, when people say they have an addiction, traveling is my addiction.
I think it's a good addiction as long as you have the money for it. So I think what we need to tell people is how you've been able to travel so much, because you are someone who travels on the cheap. Like even when we did go away to Bermuda, we got a great deal. We stayed at an Airbnb as opposed to taking a cab, which I wasn't in agreement with you on this, but we did take transit to get around Bermuda, which saves some money there.
Yeah. Well, for me, travel can be expensive, and that's what scares people, for them not to do it. And I say, well, that's kind of the opposite. You could find nice travel deals and go places for cheap, or on a budget. Let me say it that way. That might be better for people not to say cheap, but on a budget. Because when I started traveling, I was a student. So most of the times when I went places where I knew somebody, and they had a bed for me, or a couch for me, or a blow up bed where I could sleep on. Right. So that eliminated the cost of accommodations. So that I know all I have to worry about is my plane ticket or my bus ticket or my train ticket to get
But
there.
you also have to think about food and if you want to do anything fun while you're there too, right? So it's not just the plane ticket.
Right. And that's true. Right. You had to think about those things, right? But then if you're staying by somebody, once a day, you're probably eating by them, breakfast. So that saves you costing you a meal. Obviously, these are my friends. I did leave them something to say, hey, thank you for having me. Here's $50. Here's $100. But, we all knew we were students. But today, right, some of the ways I travel on a budget, or very low cost, is through frequent flyer points, doing my research, looking for deals, right? Those are the main ways I travel. For example, I got married in 2019, and we got married down in Trinidad, me and my wife and I. And there's 6 people in my family. I had 4 kids and me and my wife, and we all got down to Trinidad for about $600, just over $600, using air mile points, air miles, right?
Okay,
and that would have been.
How did you accumulate that many air miles? Like, most people don't use air miles. They don't shop to attain that many air miles. Like, people always say that, it takes a while to get air miles. It's not like, you can accumulate over time. Like, there's certain places you have to shop to get air miles, or if you're using a certain credit card to double dip. Like, here's one thing that I learned. BMO, they have a MasterCard, which allows you to get air miles. So every time you use the credit card, you get air miles, and also you could double dip. So basically, you have the MasterCard, get air miles while you're making purchases using your credit card, and you can also use the air miles card itself. So obviously, that's one way to get a lot of points, right?
Yeah, and I agree with that. I mean, when I got air miles when I was living in Toronto, and I mean, I had it for maybe 4 years, and I barely cracked over 100 air miles. And not until I moved to Nova Scotia, where you get air miles at Sobeys and Lawtons and all these other stores, then I got the credit card, like you said, is when I started to quickly rack them up. And then when you shop online, through their air mile shops, so anything you shop or buy online, Amazon, Foot Locker, whatever, Staples, you get points for just shopping online and what you've ordered, right? So many credit cards, travel credit cards. There are, for example, there's air miles, like you said. So I'll group them for you. So there is the program credit cards, which is air miles and Aeroplan. There are airline credit cards, which is dedicated to just a specific airline. There's a hybrid, which is basically points and I would say cash, or you could transfer the points to another program. And then the last one is basically a points credit card, right? The biggest 2 I usually typically use is Aeroplan and Air Miles. Those are the 2 I just interchange with credit cards. I have had my BMO one for a good 8 years, and then Aeroplan, I tend to just flip them over every year, because they give a good welcome bonus. They give you 25,000 Aeroplan miles. I use it for a year. Don't pay the annual fee because, they give an annual fee for free. And then when that time comes around, I get rid of them and then go to another bank that has Aeroplan and get the welcome bonus there. So that's a quick way you could get points, right? That's 50,000 points. I remember with my wife, we went to Washington, D.C. because of the welcome bonus they were giving. They were giving 20,000 or 25,000 Aeroplan miles plus a buddy pass, right? So I think to Washington, D.C. was only 15,000 miles. Plus, if you booked one, and then you could get a buddy pass. So, we basically, it was a 2-for-1. And that's how I flew on a budget, 2 tickets for one price. And, I used points. So basically, I only paid the taxes and fees with Aeroplan.
That's one way of doing it for those people who are, have a good credit score and they can take advantage of having the credit card and using it for what it is. But for people who are just looking to, not use their credit card to travel, but to actually use the money that they saved, what other outlets are there? Like, we have to think about everyone here, not just people who have credit cards, right? Like, I mean, right. I only have one credit card. It sounds like you have more than one. And obviously you are a smart shopper and you also pay your bills on time and those kinds of things, which is crucial in terms of having a good credit score and yada, yada, yada. But let's think about people who might not have the opportunity to have those credit cards or be able to
definitely. So, well, that is for a different show because I could tell you about credit cards and how to rack up points with using your credit card, but not everyone has the greatest.
But we're talking about travel, right? We're talking about ways to get travel points right now, right? Which is important. But I'm also thinking if we're not attaining the points that way, what is another way, to travel because,
there are other ways to travel on cheap. Well, it's all those websites, those travel websites, Expedia, Hotwire.
I think you also said Google has always been good. I mean,
Google Travel has been good. In the last couple of years, I've always found some really good. Their Google Travel Map, where they tell you where the cheapest flights are. I've gotten a lot of cheap flights through that, and they'll tell you, okay, well, if you want to travel between in March or April for a weekend trip or a 5 or 7 day trip or a 2-week trip, they'll tell you from your airport where are cheap flights going to, right? For me, typically, like for Halifax, Atlanta, Tennessee, Nashville are usually quite cheap. So, using Google Travel is a great tool. Using those travel websites is also a great tool to find cheap hotels, cheap accommodation, if you need to. So I use those as well. But another key thing is, I know we're during this pandemic, you're not able to go out anywhere. Just start saving. That's another way to do it, right? Just start saving for that big trip you want to do. And you'll eventually find out if you save $25 here, $50 here, $35 here, you'll have a nice hefty amount of money that just like, okay, where can I go, right? And then you use Google Travel or you look for deals on these websites.
So how much would you save up for a trip?
Depends on where you want to go. Canada
let's say Canada. You know what I mean?
Yeah, let's use Canada.
Let's use Canada because, I mean, we don't know what the next 6 months is going to be like. So let's just say for, safety's sake that maybe we'll be able to travel more within Canada than the rest of the world, right?
Well, I mean, unfortunately, Canada is very expensive to travel, right? And let's use Halifax to Toronto. I live in Halifax, you live in Toronto. I mean, a good price for it, for me, is anything under $300. If you can find a ticket for under $300 from Halifax to Toronto or Toronto to Halifax, I think that's a great deal. But typically it's around 400-ish. So, you need to probably save 400 for your 350 to 400 for your ticket. If you find a hotel and you want to be here for, let's say, 4 days, I think, you find a hotel for around $90 a night, $90 to $100 a night. So that's another 400, and then 200 for doing things around. So I would say about $1,200 if you are just coming to visit Nova Scotia. For the rental, you do the rental car, the accommodations, the flight. Anywhere between $1,000 to $1,200 would be a good price. Like if you want to go to Vancouver, Vancouver is on the other side of the country for me. So I'm looking at $600, $700, maybe $800 for a ticket. I heard Vancouver is not the most budget-friendly place, but I would say around $1,500 to $1,600 for Vancouver, right?
Yeah. Even from Toronto to Vancouver, it's the same thing.
Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. We have for you Altered by Mom, Break Your Heart.
I don't think we ever had a chance. You knew all my punchlines in advance. I know you had a mind to walk away, but never had the heart to really say, take it away. If I could have another try, I'd tell you all the same old lies, but I never meant to break your heart. If I could do it all again, I'd lead into the same old end, but I never meant to break your heart. Break your heart. Break your heart. Break, take it away.
Told you all my troubles and my doubts.
Gave you everything inside and out, and I didn't call your name when I walked away. I know the rain keeps falling on your face. Down, 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 wipe it away. If I could have another try, I'd tell you all the same old lies, but I never meant to break your heart. If I could do it all again, I'd lean into the same old end, but I never meant to break your heart. Break your heart. Break your heart. Break, take it away. Break your heart. Break your heart. Break, take it away.
Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. That was Altered by Mom. They've been together since 2016, and the song is Break Your Heart. Don't break my heart, because I'll come and get you.
Yeah. So For those who are tuning in, I'm Carlene, and I have in the studio with me Colin. He is a travel expert, I believe. I mean, you have been to
Oh,
Asia, Europe, the Caribbean, covered quite a bit of ground. I mean, you've been to China. How much did that cost you? Not to tell how much it cost, but how long did you save up for that trip? That was a big trip.
I did not say again, like I was saying earlier in our interviews, that I go to places where I know people. I had a friend that was there, and he kept on saying, "Just come. You'll never know. I'll give you a good time, a place to stay. We're both budget friendly travelers." He said, "Just come and visit. Just make the op. The only thing you have to pay for is your ticket." So, one of the other ways I used to travel cheaply was I used to give up my seat a lot, right? When they used to offer vouchers and say, "Oh, well, if you have some extra time, we'll give you a hotel, or, if you're willing to give up your seat, we'll give you a $500 or $600 or $800 voucher or $200 voucher." So I had a $600 voucher on Delta because I gave up my seat one time. And, my
But
friend's
wait
like,
a minute. Let me just stop you right there. So you gave up your seat, but how long did you have to wait for the next flight?
it was basically the next day. I had to wait for the next day.
That's a long time, Colin.
I know, but that's why they say if you have your travel is flexible and you're able to do it, that was
What did you do for the next for that amount of time?
well, I was in New York. I went back to my cousin's house and I said, "I'm here for an extra day," and that's what I did. And I took the following flight the following evening, and I had an extra day in New York, and I had a good time. I saw some more family, right? So that's how I got the voucher. And so for China, I had $600 voucher. He was just hounding me to come. My friend Kwame, Kwame, and one day I searched, and my mouth just dropped. The ticket price was $989 from Halifax.
$989 for what? Oh,
From Halifax to Beijing, China, because he was in Beijing. I couldn't believe it. So much so I couldn't believe it that I had to do it again. I said, "Okay, let me see how much it is from New York," because I had to connect in New York. So from New York, it was $1,500. I said, "This must be an airfare." And I was like, "Well, I have the $600 voucher." No, I had a $700 voucher, I believe. So this thing's only going to cost me $289. And I booked it. And I went. And that's what happened. That's how I got to China.
$980. Wow.
And I had a $700 voucher.
That was just for the ticket, though. You know what I mean? Not just how much you spent while you were there.
And like I said, I didn't spend much because, I went somewhere where I knew somebody, and that's another key way I tell people: go places where you know somebody and they're willing to house you, because
But that's the thing, though. There's a difference between going on a vacation and staying at a hotel versus staying with someone that you know. Because, I mean, when you go and visit family, here's the thing. When you go and visit family, it's not the same thing. You're visiting family and you have to be mindful of your family as well. You know what I mean? It's a different kind of vacation.
I agree. It is a different type of vacation with family or friends, but it depends on what type of friends or family it is, right? Like my friend in China, me and him were on the same wavelength, right? We both had no problem staying up late. We both were able to be solo travelers. So when he was busy that day and he couldn't take me around or we couldn't go somewhere, I went on my own, right? And he showed me, here's the map of Beijing. You want to go here, so go ahead, enjoy it. Here's a little, tricks of the trade. And when you get down there, there'll be somebody selling tickets around the corner. You could buy, and they're legitimate, so you could buy it there for cheaper if you want. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't, but it's your risk. And he gave me all these little pointers, right? So that's why sometimes I like traveling when where I know people. but not everybody has that. So again, it goes back to you doing your research, looking how much it's going to cost, planning for that, looking at activities that you want to do, because you can't do everything when you travel, right? And I think some people want to do that, and you just can't, right? You just got to keep it within your budget, because you don't want to come back and be like, oh, now I have to pay for it, this trip.
Mm-hmm.
And you're trying to pay it off 3, 4, 5, 6 months later, right? I mean, I had a very close call. I always told myself I would never, ever be in a position where I have to pay a trip, months down the road, where I'm slowly paying it off 3, 4 months later after my trip. I've only had one close call. And then, again, the giving up your seat became an option.
Yeah.
Right. So in this trip, I was very close to like, I'm gonna have to, get a loan or pay off. I won't be paying off my credit card this month. And funny enough, we were talking about it, me and my friend. She was heading back where she was heading to Toronto. I was heading back to Halifax. And when I got to Montreal, they asked, oh, well, does anybody want to give up their seat? It was Air Canada, so I was like, Air Canada only gives about 200. So, nah, not really. Then they asked again. And then the third time, the man really sounded desperate. So I was like, let me go up there and ask. And he was like, yeah, we're giving $800 cash. I said, yeah, I'll give up my seat for $800 cash. And I was able to pay for the trip. But, that is one of the big advice I would say about traveling is, do it when you can afford it. Right? If it's a leisure travel, sometimes you have to travel for business or family emergency. And by all means, you should definitely get in debt for that, because you have to go to a funeral or something. But if it's for leisure, do your research. Like I said, use those websites, collect those points if you can, right?
Yeah, I think next year, 2021, hopefully things will be on the brighter side and we'll be able to get back on a plane, hopefully not wearing a mask. That will be a lot better than wearing a mask on the plane, but travel is the great escape. It's another place where you could take a break from the everyday and reset,
It is. And for some people, they find travel stressful. But I enjoy just as much as traveling, going to the destination, is getting there. And you people need to remember that part of your vacation is getting to the destination. You don't know who you're going to meet on your plane. You could strike up a conversation. You could, they might be going to the same place. I met people on the planes and we were going to the same place and we met up and we've had good times, right? So you never know what getting to the destination might bring. I know sometimes it's stressful when your flight gets canceled. They won't give you a hotel. There's a snow issue. It's delayed, right? So that's one of the other tricks I would tell people is give yourself a buffer. Don't come home on a Sunday and you have to go to work on a Monday, right? If your trip ends on a Sunday, you should always plan to go to work on a Tuesday, right? Just give yourself that buffer. So, you're not stressed out. If you make it home in time, say, oh, well, I decided to come in one day early and not take that vacation day and save it for another day, right?
No, you know what? It's true. Because even speaking of last year when we went to Tobago and Trinidad.
Yes, thank you for coming to my wedding, by the way.
Yes, you're welcome, Colin. It was a great wedding. Great destination wedding. For those who are listening, if you have a chance to go to Tobago, I strongly suggest it. On our next segment with Colin, we are going to be talking about destinations, places to go on your next travel, your future travel. We both miss traveling, and I'm sure the rest of the world does. For people who enjoy traveling, I think this show is just a reminder that even though we can't travel right now, we can plan for the future. That's what it's all about. Planning is important, planning for your trip. It's always good to plan things. I think what's really nice is that Colin has always given me advice on like where to travel cheap. And like even when I went to New York, you gave me some pointers. You gave me the little pass that I could use to add money, and then you gave me the map. And New York is one of those places where you could go back so many times, and there's always so many things to do. I mean, I only went for 4 days, but when I am able to go back again, there's so many things that I didn't get to do the first time that I'll do on my next trip. Like especially, who knows when we'll be going to the States, but to go see a show on Broadway, definitely something I want to do when I go back to New York.
This is Carlene Tonight, and we have for you our favorite artist, Altered by Mom, Dewey.
Do it, do it, do it, do it, do it. I guess all of the things I could never say are things that I can sing. I guess all of the things I could never do were important to you.
Baby, do we keep on being free? Baby, do we keep on being free? Baby, do we keep on being free?
I'm sorry for the feels that I made you feel. If heartbreak is so real, I guess all of the things I could never say will all get said someday.
Baby, do we keep on being free? Baby, do we keep on being free? Baby, do we keep on being free? Baby, do we keep on
If we could try before it dies, give this candle a new light. If we could try before it dies, give this candle a new light. If we could try,
Baby, do we keep on
if we could try,
Baby, do we keep on
if we could try before it dies, give this candle a new light. If we could try, do we keep on being afraid?
Baby, do we keep on being afraid?
Hi, I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. Thanks for tuning in. That was Altered by Mom, Dewey.
Well, before we wrap things up, I just wanted to say about a couple of websites I use, right? There's one called YYZ Deals. That tells you all the cheap fares leaving Toronto. Because I'm in Halifax, I use YHZ Deals. There's also secretflying.com, and they have airfares or cheap fares from the US, Canada, the Caribbean, South America, Africa. So, if you're in Canada and you're trying to look for a cheap fare somewhere, you could always try them. Or if you're in the Caribbean, you can always go to that Secret Flying as well. And there's some, older ones like Travel Zoo, Expedia that you could use to find cheap flights. But also, like I said, and you mentioned, Carlene, was Google Travel is a great one.
Yes, yeah, definitely. I've used that because you suggested it, and it's been good. I mean, we used the, I don't know what you used for our flight to Trinidad and Tobago, but I do want to say, going back to that, I will not be doing a layover for 5 hours from the time I did again. I thought I was going to sleep. I did not sleep. And I think when you're traveling on your own, and you're in a nice country. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. You just have to be you're some more cautious. Even though I was around people, I did not want to fall asleep because I mean, I think a part of my mind was like, if I fall asleep, is someone going to take my stuff? Because I have like my iPad and my cell phone, and yeah, it was cheaper with the layover, but I think I'd prefer layover not at 1:30 in the morning because it was just like in my mind. I ended up staying up all night. Like I didn't go to sleep until I landed in Tobago, right? So that's one thing I learned from that experience. It was a great trip, but the layover was quite a bit. Like it wasn't that long. It was 5 hours, but it was the time that I arrived in Trinidad and waiting for my flight to go to Tobago. But yeah, those are the things that save you money. Like you said, waiting for the connecting flight, right? To save a buck.
Most people don't like that. I don't mind connections. Like, for example, but my cousin, she hates connections, right? I mean, me and my cousin have traveled many times. She lives in New York. I live in Halifax. And, she asked me to look for flights. And I'm like, oh, well, I could save you $175 if you want to connect through, St. Louis or Atlanta. It's like, no, direct. Right. And some people are like that. Some people are willing to pay the extra money because they don't like connections. I have no problem with connections, especially if they're long, like decent ones. Sometimes I leave the airport. Like, for example, when we went to Singapore, we had a connection in Singapore. The airport in Singapore has a spa. So my wife and I went to the spa. And we were there for almost 4 hours. We did the pool, we did the sauna, we laid in the sun, right? And we enjoyed it.
No, that's great. That's great for sure. No, I connections can be good if it's a day. Like, I mean, I was able to spend a day in Trinidad. I probably would have preferred to stay longer, but it was good. I got to hang out with my brother for a day. He took me to this roti place. Then we went to Maracas Bay and we had bacon shark. I got car sick because I just can't handle the winding roads in Trinidad. I really can't. It doesn't matter where I am in the Caribbean. I just feel like I'm a kid again where I get car sick. But yeah, it was a good delay as far as coming back. It was definitely worth it to spend that 23 hours in Trinidad for sure. So that makes sense. I'm just saying, like those short layovers where you're like, well, what do I do? So I walk around the airport, you read a book, look at magazines, and you're just like killing time at that point. You know what I mean? If it's time where you're able to leave the airport, then fine. But sometimes it's a connecting flight and you don't have enough time to leave the airport. So,
well, I understand that. And that's for another show. That the ways to make your stay at the airport a little bit more enjoyable.
yeah,
right?
but we can also talk about destination. I'm looking forward to that. Our next
Definitely.
segment, we'll be talking about top destinations to go to or travel to. I mean, this is exciting that we've learned a little bit. I mean, I learned a little bit from you today about traveling and things to think about in the new year. You know what I mean? 2021. We don't
2021,
know.
that's it.
That's it. We just never know. We don't
being
know what
firm.
2021. Yeah.
I'm
I'm
finding
holding
a
you
place
to
right
that,
now.
Colin. Colin, I'm
I'm
holding
fine.
you to that.
Even if it's to Toronto or even it's to Montreal, I'm finding something. I really do want to go to New York because my grandmother turned 100 just this past month, and it would be good to see her.
Definitely. I think things will get better. I mean, things have to get worse before they get better, right? So at this point, we're just going through this hurdle, this stepping stone that's a little bit challenging at times, but we're definitely going to get out of this one way or another, right? We have to think positive.
Indeed.
Plan for that future trip,
plan.
right?
Exactly.
We're planning. Planning for everything. It's important to plan, it's good. And it's exciting. And thank you for joining us, Colin. Again, it's Colin Campbell.
Thank you for having me.
He's all the way in Halifax, bearing us with his presence and sharing with us his journey in the last 15 years, being able to travel. Thank you so much, Colin, for joining us. I'm Carlene.
I was just saying, I'll leave you with one little quote. Don't cry that it ended. Smile that because it happened.
Great quote. Yeah. Smile because it happened. Yeah. I'm Carlene, and this is Carlene Tonight. Thanks so much for tuning in. We will definitely have Colin back on the show so that we could talk about travel and destination.
Thanks for listening to Carlene Tonight.